this elementary approach to spirituality is God for me. Practice is for me. A devotion to something is for me. Nature of reality that I'm studying is for me. And that is the trap. All right, I'm kicking this one off with a reminder that Vedanta Treatise is the book of books. This thing will explain this whole philosophy so much better than I ever could, because it's written by an absolute master, spent over 20 years. Swami Parthasarathi, the founder of the ashram that we all study with, is I'd say, he's easily one of the top 5 proponents of this philosophy globally, but the best writer within this philosophy. Hands down, Vedanta Treatise explains the whole philosophy. No woo, nothing where it's like you just got to take a leap of faith. It's explained so clearly, so simply. And if Vedanta is often called the manual for living, then that might be the physical, actual manual for living life well. And that book, it helped reshape something in my life. There's, many things. Oh God. I don't know what it hasn't reshaped over the last decade, but one thing for certain was this switch that happened over the course of a few years in studying this philosophy, still taking place. I hope it's still taking place. And that is this transformation from viewing spirituality as God for my life and a transformation of my life for God, for the divine. This contrast is, it is so obvious in nearly any spiritual tradition, where the vast majority approach it as, this is the thing that can get me what I want. Even describing it as manual for living, and that's how it was described in the very early, I'd say maybe in the first few months of discovering it, in the midst of a few years of going a mile wide and an inch deep into Eastern philosophy, discovering that this would help. And I saw it help as a founder, as a parent, as a spouse. Invaluable. And I think it's completely natural to be attracted to any philosophy because it just works in your practical life. It would be strange to be attracted to any philosophy or approach to life that didn't work, that continually blew up in your face. And yet, sadly, that is the approach for many that pursue meaning or satisfaction in something like drugs or career or reputation, even in the midst of that blowing up in their face. Blew up in my face for sure. My 20s was filled with just the wrong approaches blowing up in my face, especially pursuing name and fame and trying to build the next great big company. I'm so thankful that I was sensitive enough to understand, these are not these pursuits of just trying to outcompete other people, seeing other people as adversaries, seeing other companies, seeing other people within my company as instruments to getting what I want. I'm so glad I was sensitive to seeing every time that I thought I was putting the car in drive, it was just going in reverse and having the exact opposite results. I'm eternally grateful that I had the sensitivity to wake up to that in my late 20s instead of in my late 70s. That others are not instruments, not meant to be instruments for what we want. And that a selfish pursuit of achievement is one of the quickest ways to alienate everyone we care for around us. This path might begin with seeing this as just another way to get what we want. And like I said, it certainly is. It works phenomenally well. Way better than a 5-beer buzz or way better than some self-oriented approach to our work. It is better than that. That is a given. I'll say that right off the bat. But there is still a switch. It might be 3 or 4 years in where there's a recognition that even within a philosophical, a spiritual, maybe you're going to church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There is, if there's enough awareness, there is a recognition along the path of, wow, this is actually just a hedonistic approach to benefit me. Maybe it's to benefit me and then to benefit a few people around me that I preferentially love more than others. But this elementary approach to spirituality is God for me. This practice is for me. A devotion to something is for me. This nature of reality that I'm studying is for me. And that is the trap. That is the prison, but you've just changed it from iron bars to gold bars. God for me instead of me for God. God for my life instead of my life for God. And like I said, it's natural to approach it from that lens. That's, if the adage is true of the prophet must speak the language of the people, that's the language that hooks us because that's the frame of mind that we're in. Until a little bit more of awareness, a little more awakening, and we get to a place where we recognize, oh, wow, every time that I do something for someone else, I benefit in untold ways. And when I do something for my spouse, for my children, for my coworkers, for my boss, for my employees, when I do it almost in as Swami would put it, in a self-oblivious, non-utilitarian way. You're just self-oblivious. You're not thinking about me. You don't have the me disease. You're not thinking, oh, this is going to benefit me if I do this thing not for me. You're just self-oblivious. Even for a moment, to do something in a non-utilitarian way, non-instrumental. It's not to get something else. Self-oblivious, non-utilitarian way. Sounds jargony, but it's a pretty damn good way of articulating a selfless act. And you see that play out, not just within your community, within a team of coworkers, but you see it within yourself. Whereas we say often on the podcast, nothing feels as good as doing what you ought to do. You see that selfless action that you know you ought to do. You feel a call that perhaps it taps into a skill set that only you have. You perform it, and then you realize, wow, holy hell, there's a lot of wisdom in that, a lot of truth in that phrase of nothing feels as good as doing what we ought to do. You see that work, and then you look for a framework to where that informs more actions. To where that framework informs act after act after act, and that is done through a switch. This philosophy for me, or God for my life, into my life for God. It's the switch that every great sage and saint progressed through, not out of just blind faith that, oh, this is going to work out, but actually out of experience of seeing it work out. Independent of the external circumstance, seeing this peace within. A peace that is only attained, like I said, through that phrase of Swami's of nothing feels as good as doing what we ought to do. It might take a good deal of inquisition, a good deal of discernment to figure out what is it that you ought to do in that moment. But when you heed that call, especially that call into that self-oblivious, non-utilitarian act. Selfless action for others' benefit. You start to see these ripples, undeniable ripples, where the bars might still be there, but your prison gets larger and larger. You get more and more freedom. The bars start to evaporate. But that only comes on the switch, on the other side. The transition from God for my life towards an ever-increasing identification with my life for God, for the divine, for the higher. And it could, I won't say it should, but it could very well start. And maybe it does warrant, it should start with, this is for my team at work, this is for my family at home, this is for my spouse, this is for my mother, my father. It might start just as locally as that. And an identification with their well-being is my well-being. Their success is my success. Their alleviation of suffering is my alleviation of suffering. And you have that ever-increasing ring of identification grow and grow beyond the walls of our home to reaching our community at large, our region, our state, to reaching our country, to reaching our continent, all humanity, reaching all living beings. And as that ring of identification grows, so does our clarity in the what, the when, and the how of the things that we do. It's one of my favorite definitions of wisdom, is knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. With that growing ring of identification, it will certainly shift our behavior. It will shift the what. It will improve the how. It will clarify the when. And we become wise lighthouses within our community with all of that clarity. And that clarity really starts to shine when we make that shift from this is all for me, that shift towards giving and surrendering ourselves to the all, to what's needed 10 minutes from now, to where the call from the 2-year-old in your house is a bell of awakening, of service, of duty, of obligation, of self-obliviousness. Is that a word? Yeah, I think that's a word. Towards self-obliviousness. And the great litmus test for where we are in our spiritual path. One way of putting it, Swami said once, it's how often we identify with the welfare of others. How often we cheer on the welfare, the well-being of others. Great hallmark of our spiritual progress. Another one is when we recognize, it's not even when we make the switch, but we recognize that there is a call to make the switch from God for my life to my life for God. From others for my life to my life for others, which within this philosophy is saying the same thing. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.